I think we've reached the existential phase of this conflict. Israel crossed a red line in murdering um, Hassan Nasrallah. Um, you know, there's a phrase from I think it's Matthew 26:52. He who takes up the sword shall perish by the sword. Israel has taken up the sword. Now, I know there's going to be people out there saying, Israel didn't start October 7th. Yeah, they did. They started it back in 1948, and they've been pushing Palestine towards that ever since. Israel continues to occupy part of southern Lebanon, the Shebaa farms, which gives Hezbollah the legitimacy for its continued existence. And Israel has behaved as an out-of-control rogue state for much of its history. One can safely say that with the death of Yitzhak Rabin back in 1995, I believe, that Israel's never been serious about peacefully coexisting with its Palestinian neighbors. So it is what it is. We're entering a phase. I think those people who, are shouting out how Israel has won this war have no clue what war is and no understanding of what happened here. If you're a football coach in the NFL and you think you're going to get to the Super Bowl by using trick plays alone, you'll be sorely disappointed. Trick plays may win one game late in the game, but trick plays do not a winning season make. And what Israel has pulled off in the last couple days is a series of trick plays. It looks good. Makes the ESPN highlight reels, pagers going off. Wow, headlines. Who the hell's talking about pagers today? Did it change anything? No. Motorola handheld walkie-talkies going off. Wow. Who's talking about that today? No one. Nasrallah's dead. Wow. You really think that changed anything? You don't think Hezbollah has been preparing for Nasrallah's death ever since Israel was trying to kill him? Israel's been killing the Hezbollah leadership for some time now. Nasrallah took over in 1992 because Israel assassinated the head of Hezbollah. Nasrallah has prepared for this moment. The leadership is prepared. They have lines of succession. This is an organization that has been preparing for the very fight that Israel is now bringing to them since 2006, 18 years. You don't think they've thought through every contingency? Yeah, like I said, a trick play. Oh, pagers going off. Who would have thought about that? No one. So Israel got a cheap headline-grabbing moment, inflicted some casualties. But again, for every Hezbollah person you take out, the resistance organizational structure has somebody already identified to take their place. It's a cellular structure designed to, break apart as necessary. For instance, the southern Lebanese front will fight independent of direction from the Hezbollah center under the assumption that Israel would disrupt communications. So it's not as though there's a bunch of fighters right now saying, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? They know what to do. They've trained for it. They're prepared for it, and they'll execute this operation. Does this mean that everything's hunky-dory for Hezbollah? No, it doesn't. They're being put under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. But as I said, it's something that Hezbollah is prepared for 18 years. Has Israel prepared for this? You see, I think Hezbollah is one of those fighters that prepares to go into the ring by actually sparring, meaning not just taking a swing at a heavy bag, but getting hit. Understand what it means to get hit, being prepared to get hit, conditioned to be hit. Israel's not prepared to be hit. Israel is, one of these people who goes in, hits the heavy bag, hits the speed bag, poses in front of mirrors, flexes. But now it's time to get in the ring. We'll find out what they got. I don't know what Israel expected by taking out Hassan Nasrallah, that this would just lead to automatic victory, the collapse of Hezbollah, the collapse of Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu thinks so, and with his perfect American accent, he addressed the people of Iran. Netanyahu is somehow laboring under the pretense that by murdering Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah will collapse, and with it Iran will as well. think he's about to find out how resilient the Iranian-led resistance really is. I would have this word of caution for anybody who thinks about taking on Hezbollah and the Iranians. Martyrdom is a thing. And when you're dealing with people who sincerely believe the religious the tenets of their faith, and that faith embraces martyrdom as a legitimate outcome, in some cases during jihad, a desirable outcome, killing them ain't going to solve anything. When you cut off the head of the Hydra, 3 more spring up. And by taking out Nasrallah, all you did is guarantee that somebody stepped in. And that somebody right now is his cousin. He's now the, I apologize, I can't pronounce his last name, but
Saifuddin.
Okay. He was the head of, it's not as though they pulled him out of nowhere. This is a man who's been literally operating in Hassan Nasrallah's shadows. He's headed up the executive committee of Hezbollah, which means he knows the leadership. He's been on every important decision made, so he knows everything Hassan Nasrallah knows. In fact, I would say that he's actually better prepared to lead Hezbollah right now in this crisis because, as anybody knows, the CEO isn't necessarily the person you go to learn about day-to-day operations of an organization. They have lieutenants, they have deputies that do that. The CEO sits back and issues statements and signs documents and provides guidance. And Nasrallah was the CEO. But the people running the show are different people. And this cousin was one of the people running the show. It's the same thing. They kill the heads of various departments. And it's a serious blow. These guys have corporate knowledge. But to pretend that, the pyramid, the leadership pyramid of Hezbollah is so narrow that when you take out the top, the pyramid collapses is absurd. It's a very broad pyramid. And below each person, there are a dozen or more ready to take their place. And below them are more. This is a true resistance organization, a true guerrilla-style cellular structure. And the idea that you're going to pop a couple bubbles and the whole thing is going to collapse is ludicrous. Is Hezbollah in for a long, difficult period? Absolutely. So is Lebanon. But so too is Israel. And the question now is who can last longer? Lebanon and Hezbollah are conditioned for this fight. They've been in the ring. They've been sparring. They've been punched. Israel, I think, is straight off the couch. A little bit of heavy bag work, a little bit of speed bag work. And now they're told they're getting in the ring with Mike Tyson. Good luck with that.
Yeah. And we had, Scott, a joint Russian-Syrian air raid on Idlib. And what was the reason behind that? And what are the activities in that region that was of concern for Russia?
What, say the first part of that sentence?
In Idlib, they were attacking Idlib, Russia.
Well, what's in Idlib? Terrorists, Wahhabists, Al-Qaeda. This is, again, people don't give Russia the credit that Russia deserves. The Russians came in and saved al-Assad. And I know there's a whole coterie of people out there who are like, Assad's a brutal murderer, a war criminal, this, that. Kiss my ever-loving butt. All right? You know who's a war criminal? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, CIA-backed so-called Free Syrian Army. These are outside perpetrators, actors coming in trying to change the regime of perhaps the most popular president Syria's ever had. You watch this guy walk down the streets of Damascus. Okay, he is loved, deeply loved. And that's not an Alawite community that he's walking down the streets. That's a Syrian community with, Sunni, Shia, Alawites, Christians. They're all there. They love this man. They love this man because he has stood by them and he's dragged them through, gotten them out of the gates of hell with the help of Russia. Russia intervened to prevent the black flag of Wahhabism from flying over Damascus. And they succeeded. The Russians then went around and did some interesting things. They brought in their military police. I always say that the Nobel Committee should give the Peace Prize to Russian military police for what they've done in Syria, because they've gone into a situation where Islamist extremists are not going to talk to the Syrian government. They're not going to talk to them. The Russians came in, separated the two, and then negotiated a deal where these extremists and their families could be evacuated to Idlib, thereby liberating much of the territory around Damascus in southern Syria from this anti-regime, entities. But now they're up in Idlib. Idlib was an area that it's the birthplace of the so they say I think it's Dara in the south is where the original riots took place. But if you want the big fighting, it took place up in Idlib. I think it's Jizr al-Shagir is the name of the town that the original fighting took place. There's just that province has been taken over by Al-Qaeda, by al-Nusra, ISIS. I mean, every time al-Baghdadi was hanging out in Idlib, when he got killed. So, it's a place full of bad people. The Turks have come in. They've created, a buffer zone that they've populated it with radical Uyghurs that they were able to coax out of China, bring in, train. There's a huge Uyghur population right now in Idlib. These are people who carry out horrific acts of terrorism and violence against anybody who opposes them. And, Russia's there to help the Syrian government regain sovereignty over the totality of its territory. And so you have this al-Nusra front, you have these al-Qaeda elements, launching attacks against the Syrian government, against the Russians, and the Russians respond. And so, Russia drops bombs on these people because they want to weaken them. They want to demoralize them. They want to create the conditions where they will be compelled to either flee Syria, but nobody's going to take them, or die, which Russia's willing to help them do, or make an agreement with the Syrian government and try to reintegrate into society. And there are some elements there that can do that. There are some who will never be allowed to do that. And that becomes Turkey's problem. But I don't think Turkey wants to absorb radical Islamists. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a certain element, a certain number of people in Idlib, they're going to have to die. That's just the reality of it. The situation is such that we've put the most evil people on the planet in a very tight space, and there's nowhere left for them to go. And so they're going to die. And Russia's going to help them die by dropping bombs on them. It's tragic. It's not a desirable outcome, but again, blame the United States. We're the ones that poured the money. We're the ones that empowered Turkey, encouraged Turkey to do this. Blame Turkey. Erdogan made a huge strategic error in turning his back on the friendship that he had with Bashar al-Assad. He went with the gamble that Assad was going to fall in 2012, 2013, and that Erdogan, would be able to assert Turkish sovereignty over the Vilayet of Aleppo, where Idlib is adjacent to that, but take over this territory. Northern Syria would become Turkey again, part of the greater Turkey, just like he has visions of the Vilayet of Mosul somehow returning to Turkey. It was a gamble. It failed miserably, and now he's left dealing with the consequences of this. And Russia's not going to let the pressure up. Russia's not going to allow the situation in Idlib, and Syria's not either, to become sort of the status quo. They want this thing resolved. Bashar al-Assad wants to have control over all of Syria. That includes not just Idlib, but also the areas in northwestern Syria where the United States and Turkey are occupying. This isn't going to happen unless continued pressure is brought to bear on those who are illegally occupying or illegally residing on sovereign Syrian territory.